Hello, folks. For this week's lesson, we're going to take a look at El Noir de la Mer. It is a beautiful Catalan Christmas song. It was made popular by, or at least outside of Spain, was made popular by Andre Segovia, his guitar arrangement, which was very influential. But you may have heard it as sung by someone like Jose Carreras. I recorded this song on my latest Christmas album. Well, I guess my first Christmas album, my latest album. And it is all ukulele-based Christmas music. So this is one of those songs on there. And this is one of the, might be the only song that is performed just as is, one ukulele, nothing else. So it's pretty cool. On the record, I play this song on my low G instrument, but today I'm going to be playing this song for you on my soprano ukulele with a high G. So it works just fine. It's just going to have a different color to it. But if you take a look at the tab, you'll notice that the G string doesn't come into play at all in the melodies. You probably recognize all, if not most of the chords here. We've got C, G, A minor, and F. So it's all familiar in that regard, but here we are playing the melody, and that's the thing that I want to focus on here, is playing that melody, so one note at a time on your strings, and then we can kind of add some chord stuff into the mix. There's nothing that says you can't strum and sing the song. You know, you could sing da 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 da. But if you can't guess, I don't know the lyrics. I did include the lyrics with an English translation in the email, so you can check that out if you'd like to play around. But again, this lesson is going to focus on playing the melody. But you could still strum the chords along with me playing the melody, and actually that's a great way to kind of create little duets on the ukulele. Have somebody playing the melody, and then somebody else strumming the chords. But let's take a look at these individual notes. This song is in the key of C. You may have been able to guess that just by looking at the chords and saying, hey, it starts on a C, and I've seen all of these other chords in C songs, so I bet it's in C. Well, it's in C. And the melody is based around the C scale. Let's check this out. This is our C scale. So we're going to start our C scale on the C string. Pluck that string open. And I'm just going to be using my thumb to pluck all these notes for now. So I've got my C. My next note is a D, and I'm going to play that on the second fret of my C string. So I've got C, D. And I've got an E. Fancy that, we have an E string. So I can just pluck that E string, and I get my E note. So I've got C, D, E, and I need an F, G. So F is first fret of the E string, G is third fret. Then an A note. Again, I've got an A string. There's my A note. Second fret of the A string is my B note. And then third fret of the A string is my C note. That's an octave higher than my open C string. So these are both C's in different octaves. So that C scale looks like this. And then we can go backwards. practicing that scale is also going to help you learn your way around those notes. So when you see them in the wild, you're not like, oh, where is that? Okay, that's right over here. If you've been playing the scale, if you've got that kind of knowledge in your fingers already, that's going to just make learning the song that much easier, because your fingers already know the roads. You're just following specific directions now. The song is in 6/8 time, which means we have 6/8 notes in each measure. So we're kind of counting it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we kind of have that kind of feel going on. So we can kind of think of it in 2 groups of 3, or we can think of it as a 6 count. Da, 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 da. But this song also has like a kind of swingish feel. You'll see the dot and like a little extra flag on some of these notes. And that is indicating this kind of galloping feel. So da, 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 da. So instead of 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, we're kind of thinking 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1. Kind of like that. It's a very basic explanation of what's happening. But I think kind of hearing the rhythm can be a little bit easier than understanding all those weird dots and symbols on a page. And then once you're kind of like, okay, that's what that's supposed to sound like, ba, 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 then we can kind of make sense of all those weird little symbols. Let's try putting it into context here. I'm going to look at this in groups of 3 notes at a time, or within the span of 3/8 notes, just so we can compartmentalize and kind of get a little chunk at a time. So our first 3 notes are the open E string, 1st fret, and 3rd fret. Now you'll see that I'm obviously not doing anything but plucking the note, plucking the E string for my E note. For that F, I'm using my index finger on the 1st fret, and for the G, I'm using my ring finger on the 3rd fret. And I'm just going to use my thumb to pluck these notes. So that middle note is shorter than the other 2 notes. Oops. Just like that. For my next group of 3 notes, I am going to start on that same note that I left off on, that 3rd fret of the E string. But then I go to my open A string, and then 2nd fret of the A string. Same rhythm, ba, ba, ba. Now notice I'm using my middle finger for that 2nd fret. Now, I'm not always going to have the luxury of staying in this position, but what I do want to try and do is keep a finger assigned to each one of my frets. So 1st finger, 1st fret, 2nd finger, 2nd fret, 3rd finger, 3rd fret. You get the idea. That is going to help so I don't necessarily have to think about what finger I need to use, because it already knows its job. I'm not always going to have that luxury. Sometimes, my middle finger is going to have to do my pinky finger's job or something like that at some point along the line. But if you kind of remember that basic rule at the beginning, you're going to be in good shape. All right, all the notes in that first measure together. Let's check it out. Starting to sound like a thing. Moving on to the second measure, 3rd finger, 3rd fret. Check that out. So I'm 3rd fret, 2nd fret to open. It's my next group of 3 notes. And then the next group only has 2 notes in it, and we've got a very long note. We've got our A note, which is, and then 3rd fret of the E string again. If we're counting in our groups of 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's see what those first 2 measures sound like together now. Cool. Now, if you're jumping right into this and you're still finding your way around the frets, don't be afraid to spend some time just getting comfortable with where those notes are. Don't worry about the rhythm, you know, keeping a regular tempo. You know, if you have to just pluck through the notes one at a time to figure out where you're going and see what it feels like under your fingertips, that is totally fine, and in fact probably the best way to go about starting this. So just kind of identifying the notes, which finger to use to play them, and just kind of plunk your way through all of the notes. And then once your fingers kind of have a sense of where to go, then you can start applying the rhythms to this. Okay. But let's move on to measure 3 and see what that sounds like. Again, this is looking pretty similar to what we saw before. We start off on the open E. Measure 4. Okay, so the difference there is we end on a very, very long note there. That 3rd fret we're holding out for those last 3 beats of that measure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm gonna keep moving kind of quickly through this. So if you're still kind of like figuring out where you're going, don't worry about following me along directly. You can always jump back into this video as you're like, okay, now I've got my fingers. All right, now I'm moving. All right, let's look at what measure 5 was all about. So measure 5. Going open, 1, 3, 3, 1, open, all on my E string there. Okay, now we're down to, in measure 6, we're moving down to the C string. I got 2nd fret, and that's that group there. 2, 0, 2, 1, 2, 3. The next group of notes, open E, followed by an open C. 1, 2, 3, or that would be like 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's measure 6. Let's take a look at measures 5 and 6 together. One more time. Measure 7. Open 1, 3. That's the first 3 beats there. And the second 3 beats. Just go back down. 3, 1, open. So measure 7 all together. Measure 8, we're going back down to that C string. 2nd fret of the C string. Open E to 2nd fret. So it's hard to see because I want to leave my middle finger on that 2nd fret of the C string because it's not interrupting anything by keeping that finger right there. get a little bit of overlap in those notes if I want a nice sustain, you know, letting those notes ring out can sound kind of cool. But also, I don't have to move this finger. This finger doesn't have to leave because I'm coming right back to that finger, and keeping it there isn't interrupting the open E string. And then I end on that measure on my open C. Okay, let's take a look at, that's measure 8 all by itself. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Let's look at measures 5 through 8 all together now. 4, 5, 6. Okay. Measures 9 through 12 are going to seem very familiar to you. It's going to look a lot, if not exactly, like measures 1 through 4. So let's just play measures 9 through 12. Now you're going to notice a lot of similar patterns that will continue to show up even when things, notes maybe get inverted a little bit, or sometimes I'm playing 2 strings instead of just 1. As we go through, you'll see some of those subtle differences. But once you've got that, you're pretty close to having the whole song, because it's all going to be similar moves for the rest of the tune. Let's take a look at measure 13, for instance. We've seen that before. That was the same as measure 5. So that's measure 13. Measure 14 looks a lot like measure 6, but I've got extra notes. At one point I play 2 strings instead of just 1 string. So let's take a look at measure 14 here. So 2nd fret of the C string. 2, open 2, and then I play C and E strings together, followed by the C string all by itself. Measure 14. Measure 15. That was the same thing that we just did in 13. How about measure 16? That was the same thing we did back in measure 8. 2, open E, 2nd fret of the C, and then we end on open C. Just like that. Measure 17, we kind of switch things up a little bit. We've done this move before, but not quite in this order. So now we're starting on our high C, our 3rd fret of the A string. So we do 3, 2, open. And we move down to the E string and go 3, 1, open. So from the A string, 3, 2, open. And then the E string, 3, 1, open. Measure 18, C string, 2nd fret, open 2nd, then open E, and open C. Play that again. Measure 18. I'm going to play 17 and 18 together. Now again, as I said before, you can stop and work on any one of these little chunks for as long as you need to. And I encourage you to get really comfortable with all of these. Take as much time as you need with each one of these little sections. Group it up into either a measure or maybe a group of 3 notes, or if you're comfortable doing an entire row, that's cool. But definitely, find chunks to work on, as opposed to just trying to learn the entire thing all the way through. Kind of like what this lesson, this video is going to kind of feel like. Obviously, if we had all the time in the world, I would sit with you for an hour on each measure, and it would be really, really cool, and just really super hyper focused. But I think you you can work on each one of these parts on your own. I believe in you. All right, measure 19. So this is the same as measure 17. 3rd fret of the A string, 3 2 0. Then we start on 3rd fret of the E string, 3 3 1 0. So I'll play that again. Cool. Measure 20. You saw that one before somewhere. That was the same as measure 16. 2nd fret of the C, open E, back to 2nd fret of the C, and open C to end. All right, let's play 17 through 20 together now, so we see what that whole row sounds like. And measures 21 through 24, pretty much the same thing. I'm just going to play through measures 21 through 24. So literally the only difference between those 2 rows as far as the melody is concerned is we're holding out that last C note a little bit shorter, a little bit less than in measure 20. So not a big change. The last 2 measures are just like a little tag, just a coda, a slightly different little ending, just kind of repeating a phrase. So we're just kind of repeating what we did at the end of measure 24. So we have that first beat in our group of 3 is silence, ba, and then we do open E, 2nd fret of the C, open C. So rest. That's measure 25 there. And measure 26, I just throw in the 3rd fret of the E string on that first beat. Otherwise, we're doing the same thing. Just adding a little bit of drama to kind of repeat at the end there. So that is the whole tune. I am going to play it through for you, just the melody all by itself, so you can see what that, or hear rather, what that sounds like. 1, 2, 3. right, so that's all there is to the melody. So again, you could have one person playing that. You could play that back and strum the chords along with me as I play that. Or vice versa.